All right, good day everyone and welcome to Kara Technologies presentation. Okay, so who am I? My name is Eden. So recently, Kara, a New Zealand tech company who work with Avatar Technology, have contacted me and said they needed a contact for Australian organisations. And I imparted some of my knowledge about the Australian field here, and they explained to me what they were doing. What is Kara? And when I heard about it, I was amazed. In the past, in the Australian deaf community, there's been a lot of barriers and certain events happening. And this technology, I have ushers, so I'm deaf-blind, and in the future, having certain critical emergencies come up, this technology offered a very sound solution, and it really made me think. So they've asked me to come by with them down to Melbourne, and now here in Sydney, and in a couple of days' time we'll be in Brisbane. And I was really blown away by what they are here to present, and it really made me think. And now I'd like to handball over to Grace to tell you some more.
Making sure the interpreters can see me. Yes, hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for joining us in the room and for those online. So my name is Grace and this is my sign name. So I will try my best to sign in Auslan, because to let you know, I was born in New Zealand, so I might have some New Zealand signs that might puzzle you. Perhaps you're thinking they're different signs, but yeah, just ask me if there's any clarification that you need, and likewise goes for the interpreters. So as you can see here, I'm representing Kara today, Kara Technologies. This is our sign name for the business, Kara. So a little bit of who I am, and then we'll jump into what Kara is and what we do. So I'm a deaf person. I have a cochlear implant and I talk a lot. I'm similar to Eden. We can't stop talking. So I have two deaf children. One is 5 and the other is 3. I have a boy and a girl. So I got really interested in Kara because I thought about my children and what is their future like? I realized that Kara could really support them. So I really just got invested in that from the start. Let me just check my notes. Bear with me one moment. So we'll have a PowerPoint that won't go for a very long time, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, thereabouts, depends on how much I talk and how many questions there are. We'll have a number of slides. We'll be talking about who Kara is, what we are aiming to achieve, and we'll show you some demos of the projects that we have going on. And then at the end, we'll have a bit of an opportunity to share a survey, and would really be grateful if you would fill that out for us. It's really simple. There's only about 4 questions on it, but it just gives us a good understanding as to what's good and what's not good. So we'll have an opportunity for Q&As at the end. So perhaps there's some things that you're unsure about, please feel free to ask them at the end. If you're here in the room, then we'll ask you to come up to the front so we can ensure the live stream and the recording is capturing that. If people online have questions, then go ahead and type them into the chat and someone will relay them to us as well. Fantastic. All right, next slide, please. So you might be wondering who this is. This is a really wonderful man by the name of Arash. This is his sign name, Arash. Why? Because he's always running around all over the place. He's full of beans. He never stops. He is the one who created Kara Technology. He's our CEO. Quite unfortunate that he wasn't able to join us here in Australia because his Iranian passport meant that it was very strict and difficult for him to access Australia. He faced many barriers, but the good news is that his visa has been approved just of yesterday. So he'll be coming and joining us in perhaps 2 or 3 weeks to meet with some other stakeholders. So we're here to do the community engagement and he'll meet with governments and the like. Arash was pretty disappointed that he wasn't able to come and join. So he's got a video here. He's doing a bit of sign and he's still learning New Zealand Sign Language. And I've got him to jump on video and say a bit of a good day to everybody. So here we are. Hi, everyone. My name is Arash, and this is my sign name. I'm the director of Kara Technologies. I was very sad because I was not able to come and join you there in person for this presentation. But we have the wonderful Grace and Eden joining you today to present. So doing a big job for us here at Kara. I want to say a big thank you to Expression Australia, to Deaf Connect, and to Deaf Australia. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all face to face very soon. Love you all. Bye. So you can see Arash's face there. When he was first setting the company up, you can see him as a relative baby comparison to who he is now. So this is about 5 years ago. You might be wondering how it is that Kara actually came to be. Well, Arash was born and raised in Iran, and he moved to New Zealand and studied a PhD in wireless communication technology, all of that sort of thing. So did his PhD. Throughout his studies, he unfortunately became quite unwell. And he got a disease called Meniere's disease. So it meant two things. One is that he had terrible vertigo. And the other is that one of his ears lost its hearing. His other ear can hear fine. However, his left ear is completely deaf. So he was studying with his new hearing loss, his vertigo, and he kind of realized that there was no other deaf people studying those higher degrees like PhDs or really within the faculty at all, those advanced technologies or creating businesses. And he started to wonder, why is this gap happening? So Arash, with these people here, we have Sahar and Famir. So I'll introduce them in a bit more detail later on. However, the three of them decided to go to the teaching center there and sit down with the rest of the faculty and talk about some of their research ideas. At that time, none of us had any idea about deaf culture. They were just baby-faced, just wanting to learn about their community. So they had some conversations, they asked some more questions, and they learned about the barriers that deaf people were facing and how it was hard for them to achieve full access to education and a number of other factors of life. So Arash thought, okay, well, I'm good with technology. You're good with deafness and sign language. So why don't we work together to remove those barriers? So they started thinking about how it is that they could actually do that. Around that time, as I said, Arash was quite new to the area. And of course, he asked them dumb questions. He said, well, what's the problem with deaf people reading captions? Why isn't that good enough? And people explained that English wasn't a lot of deaf people's first languages, and that was a barrier. And so he started to think, well, what's happening overseas? What's happening with American Sign Language? What's happening with British Sign Language in these different contexts? And then he learned that there was different sign languages. He started to really understand a lot more about the community. So what he decided to do is to focus on creating digital signing avatars. So where we are now is pretty impressive, but I will show you that soon. But I want to take you back in time a little bit and show you to when we first started out, when we were really starting off from scratch, our first ever avatar that Arash created. So looking back, we have to cringe a little bit. It's certainly not perfect, but you have to start somewhere. So let me show you our first generation avatar now. As you can see here, it's very, very simple, but wait until you see this avatar sign. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's not much going on there. The deaf community is not going to find this satisfactory at all. There's no facial expression. The list goes on as to why this isn't good enough. The deaf community thought, no way, this is not good. So Arash thought, I better go back, went back into the office, started to work things through, and then created the second generation of avatars. This avatar has a name, and this avatar's name is Nikki. She also has a sign name, and it is this. Reason being is that her personality is binary code. Zeros and ones, 1100, 111. So that's why she has this sign name. So this is Nikki. So have a look at her signing. This is our second generation. This is not our final version, but yeah, please take a look. So it's getting a bit better there. Not perfect, but it is on the right track. This has been shown to the deaf community, and one of the biggest bits of feedback we got is, where's the facial expression? It looks like Nikki's had her fair share of Botox and is just signing without any expression at all. Doesn't match with the sign language, which, as we know, has all these other parameters of these facial expression, etc. So we thought, all right, we'll keep that in mind. We'll take that feedback on board and work through it to what we have currently as our current generation of avatars. I'll go on with that in a moment, but I want you to think of one number. So Nikki here has 24 different points of movement on her face where she's able to be modified and the facial expression is able to be changed. But have a look at this new one. So remember the previous generation, Nikki, had 124 points that she could move on her face. So this current generation has over 600. This avatar is able to purse its lips, move its eyebrows in ways that Nikki was just unable to. When we showed this version of the avatars to the deaf community in New Zealand, they were just wrapped. They could see that the signs were comfortable, that they were able to be understood. There was none of that clunky signing going on. It was much smoother. So we use that avatar for a number of different projects, such as picture books, some translations, etc. So the next video, if you can pop that up. This video was created 5 years ago when we first started to use motion capture. So that means there is a person here, is in a particular suit that they move around, they sign, that's got all these points of movement, and that gets sent to a computer. So this is actually rather old, using this big helmet on top of you with a camera in front of it to capture the facial expression, which I did as well. So this was actually a fantastic day. We've got a time lapse shooting this video, and this shows you a day in the life of Kara. This was the first time that we did motion capture, so check it out. So this was in about 2018. From the first day of having all of these people involved, the deaf community, coders, financiers, without them, it would have been impossible for us to create what we have now. So really take my hat off to all of the people in this video here. This is the old way of doing motion capture. Now we have created another video of how we do it currently. So this is from this year. The next video has some New Zealand Sign Language translations going on, and you can see that it's actually quite different to this video. So as you can see, that person waving there was actually me. So I actually had such a fun time signing that video. I felt like a queen. So we've worked on a lot of different projects. We have created 6 different picture books, and you're actually able to look at them on the Kara website. We can share the link a bit later on. The next video, yes, there is more videos coming, but the next video we're about to show you is actually one of our most popular picture books. And I'm sure you're familiar with the book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. We created this video. It's now publicly available on YouTube, and it's actually had over 80,000 views over the last 5 months. So we're really excited about that. We've taken the last page and put it in here. So yes, it's a bit of a spoiler. However, we feel that it's actually one of the most impressive parts of the project, and it really demonstrates where we've gotten to today. So have a look at this avatar and how they signed the Very Hungry Caterpillar. Who do you think signed that video? It was actually me. So I look like an old man in the avatar. Every time I watch it, I actually get thrown off a little bit thinking, well, that's me, but it's not me. What's going on there? This was a great chance for us to really demonstrate and showcase what it is that our avatars can do, how far they've come, all of the uses that we have for them. So we rolled this picture book out and we asked the New Zealand deaf community what they thought about it. You know, we've got some brainstorming sessions, we've got so many ideas, but what's the next step for Kara? What should we do? There was a deaf man that put his hand up and he said he has many barriers in emergency situations. When emergency comes up, it's never smooth, that provision of access. And I thought, okay, well, what can we do about that? How can we use our avatars to remove those barriers in emergency situations? Oh, next slide. Yeah, thank you. So we thought long and hard about that. And now what we would love to do is take you through a bit of a story as to how we actually got to where we are today. So maybe about last year or even now still, you're looking at TV and you could see something like this happening. A man in an umbrella in torrential rain, and you think, oh, well, the weather looks pretty bad. But what information is being provided? There's no captions. There's no interpreter there. Next, we see all of these hearing people running for their lives. And the deaf community is left feeling like this. What is happening? Do I follow? Do I stay? What do I do? You see all these people running around all over the place. And it's not fair. It's not fair for the deaf community to face those barriers. So we researched emergency situations and we thought, what happens with the deaf community? What happens with the hearing community? And how it is that they receive information. The hearing community receives information in any number of ways, as mentioned here on the screen. As mentioned before, I'm from New Zealand, so this is for a New Zealand context. We know that there are many different organisations and jurisdictions within the Australian context. So this is New Zealand based. So what people will do is get information from civil defence, from radio, from phone calls, from news reporters on televisions, from friends calling them, hearing sirens wailing down the street, any number of ways. The deaf community, their list is much smaller. Yes, deaf people do receive an SMS, but perhaps it has complex information and it's not smooth to understand. It's not easy to follow and the English might be convoluted. There could be friends or family that reach out to them and say, hey, there's an emergency. However, there is a delay because they have to, of course, take care of themselves and make sure that they're safe before they can think of their deaf friends to make sure they're safe as well. Yes, captions are available, but are they always perfect? No, sometimes there are errors. Sometimes they are very confusing as well. As well as reading, the community can be difficult also. Yes, interpreters are present, but that comes much later, can be hours later. Once the emergency has been and gone, it's too late in many situations. So we were thinking about what to do. So we've got a bit of a before and after in the case of our technology as to how it can actually assist in an emergency situation. So can you imagine a deaf person receiving information firsthand, getting all their hearing friends or their deaf friends around them to follow them to safety? So that's really the aim of what Kara is hoping to achieve. So that's just a little snippet there of a avatar on the phone signing at you. And so what we're going to do now is two things. I'm going to get Eden back on stage to show us how it is that we create the message. And I'll explain a bit about some of the breakdowns of that as to how we actually do that.
Okay, so over the last few years, there's been many situations. We've had fires and floods and COVID. There's been a bunch of things that have happened in the recent years. So I'd like to show, pretend an emergency involving a fire, and the SMS sends out an SES sends out an SMS. Sorry, this is a demo only. It's still in the process of being fixed up. So I'd just like to show you how this works. So we click through the options and link it into the message and sends it out to the deaf community to create the video similar to what you just saw. So let's select the type of emergency, where the location is. Let's say Sydney, please, if you could pick Sydney. Okay, so we took Sydney. What is the issue? So we were talking about fire, so I'm going to select fire from the drop-down list here. And the action required. So there's so many different things that could be, you know, there might be a tidal wave. For example, don't go in the ocean, don't go swimming. And so there are certain things that will be blotted out which won't apply to fires, for example. So there'll be some obvious choices. So we've chosen this, and any extra information that we might need. Again, the list can really be expanded here. So this is just for the use of a demo. So we click through the options and generate this message. So this has been made online automatically just through clicking a few buttons and through the creation of those avatars. We've got a few keywords and a few key messages, and automatically that translates our clicked sort of pre-scripts into a message that's able to be sent out very quickly. So this is just giving you one example. I might give you another example. Just to give you something else to think about. So let's think, what's another example? I feel like maybe, let's go to Perth, please. Okay, so what might be the problem? I feel like maybe there could be a tsunami over there one day. So what's the action? Again, similar, you can only pick one that's relative to the emergency. So now it'll create on the spot the new message. So there you go. That's amazing. It's very automatic, very quick. And you click the link, generates the message, sends it out instantly. The deaf community are able to receive that and share that video or know what to do immediately in the case of an emergency. So that's it, and I'm sure it'll potentially save some lives. I'll hand you back over to Grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. So as I said previously, I'll explain two breakdowns of this particular process. Eden mentioned before that this is a demo. So there is some time that is required to develop this into its final state. So it actually has one word that is joined in together all to make a total sentence, to make a cohesive message that flows with all of the signs. So the technology ensures that it looks smooth between all of the signs. Once we have partnered with organizations, of course, we will ensure that this is not just a demo, but in a much more finalized state. What we really hope to achieve is certainly not to take over any interpreter roles. That's never the case. Interpreters, we respect interpreters and the hard work that they do. We know that they cater to the deaf community and are very crucial. What we are looking to do is address a gap. So can you imagine an emergency happens at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning? Let's say there's a tidal wave in Perth. Everyone's running around. The interpreter is going to put their clothes on and think about their own situation and run out the door to interpret. The time really gets dragged out. That's where our technology can step in get the message out there. Interpreters can get themselves organized, make sure that they're safe, and then look to be able to look to a press conference, get up there with the premier, whomever it might be. And then we don't need the technology in that moment anymore. We have the interpreter there to convey that message. So that's one of the questions that we get asked quite frequently. People say, what's going to happen to interpreters? Are you going to take them over or put them out of a job? The answer is no. We're here to complement the interpreter situation, ensure that that gap can be covered. So what's next? With the support from yourselves, the deaf community, people online, here in the room, throughout Australia, with your support, what we can do is actually go out there and have conversations with emergency organizations. We have proof that the community wants this technology. And of course, this is catered to a New Zealand context, but in Sydney, Brisbane, wherever it might be, there are different organizations that we're going to be reaching out to and having conversations with as well to really create something that suits the context and the environment that you have here. The scripts, they'll be completely different depending on where you are, whether you're in Sydney or Perth. We'll ensure that the signing matches the particular context that it's being used in. So how did we actually do all of this? We did it thanks to our amazing team. And we love to get out and have fun together. This is us in Halloween dressed up. You have met Arash before, our CEO. This is him there. Next to him, we have Sahir. And she's our COO, our Chief Organization Officer. And she is actually one of the most organized people I've ever met. Every time we sit down and have a conversation, she's taking minutes, she's got to-do lists, she's got actions. She makes sure we're all following our deadlines. She is amazing. Sometimes Arash and I are just having these blue sky thoughts, and she really looks at to how we can make that happen in reality. We've got Famir here as well. It's a bit of an unfortunate side name, the reason being that the start of his name sounds like farm, so the sign we use is farm. But you can see he's thin as a wreck. But his sign name makes it look like he's got a big pot belly. Anyway, what his role is our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer. And I must say, he knows everything to do with technology. Anything that comes up, he just comes over and it just looks easy. He makes it look really easy. So I'll be working on my desk sometimes and I'll look over Famir's screen and I just have to think, wow, what's going on there? This computer program has got some black and green matrix screen and it just looks like all of this code. And I'm just wondering, what is that? Somehow he makes it become this program. That's just him. So the demo that I showed you before, Famir created that from scratch. We have Richard as well. This is his sign name. Where is he? This is him there. Reason being that I've never seen him without a cap, really. I mean, once, no, twice that I can think of. One is here. And the other was when we went to the New Zealand High Technology Awards, which was a red carpet event, pretty fancy, which meant that he couldn't possibly wear his hat. He had a bow tie on and he reluctantly took it off. And the team looked at him and thought, oh my God, I've never seen you without a hat. And this was the other time. Every other time, it's just glued to his head. So that's his sign name. His role is the animator. He's the one who actually makes the avatars work. So all of that movement, it doesn't always get captured perfectly with the motion capture. So Richard jumps in and makes that look seamless. So it might be that some finger spelling is not quite touching the hand appropriately. So he just jumps in there and fixes it up. We've got Demi as well. This is Demi here. And he's the new guy. He joined us about 4 months ago. And he's very young. He's in his 20s, maybe 22 or something, but bright as a star. He's the junior animator. So he works with Richard. And yeah, he's just coming leaps and bounds. So that's our team. As I mentioned at the start, we'll have an opportunity for you to do a couple of things. One is to fill out the survey, and we'd be very grateful if you would do so. You can either type this into Menti, or you can use the camera on your phone to jump into this QR code. The survey will actually be live online for 2 weeks. So if you're thinking you're a bit short of time right now, then it actually will be available. And we will take a screenshot of that and put that on our social media for you to be able to access later. And we'll love it if you could reach out to your friends and get them to jump in and fill out some questions to help us understand a bit more about community sentiment as well. So what I might do now is give you about 2 minutes to jump in there and fill the survey out, if you'd be so kind. Okay, so we've had a few people jumping in there to fill out the survey. I'll wait a moment more. So just to reiterate, this QR code will be on our social media as well. And I will ask Deaf Connect, Deaf Australia and Expression to share that on their socials as well. This presentation has been recorded and we will be sharing that as well. So perhaps there's some people who were unable to join today, whether face-to-face or online, but they can look at that in their leisure later on. So be very grateful if you can share that with your family and friends and networks as well. Okay, so I've probably talked enough. I might nearly wrap it up, not quite, but we will save some time for some Q&As. So now's your opportunity to ask any questions, any comments you might have. So yeah, the floor is yours. Yep, and if you'd like to come up.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Andrew. I work here at Deaf Connect, but I also am a volunteer in the New South Wales Central Emergency Services, SES. So if there's an emergency such as a tidal wave or a fire or anything, those sorts of things, 6 months ago, I was involved in the writing a report or the about the floods and things that happened here in Sydney. So where the floods are, the river. Sorry, I'm lost here, Dave.
So it's coming up in English only, and we're really missing out on a lot of that information. Grace is speaking. Yes, so we'd love you to send us some further information. As mentioned, this is just a demo, and it's to show what is really possible. But yes, the details that you mentioned as to where to go, what time, where the river's flooding and swelling, all of that information can be added. However, this is just a demo. So this is really more about what to do in that moment. Once there's more time and the interpreter comes and gives some of that finer detail, for example, well, I know an earthquake situation, being from New Zealand in the South Island, you see these, 7.5 Richter scale information. So we can put that in there. but to say where it is, maybe it's in Christchurch, maybe it's wherever it might be, you need to find some cover. And then later on, the interpreter will arrive to give that finer detail. But what we do is depend on those emergency organizations that we partner with to provide us with that information. We liaise with them and ensure that it matches the context. So this is just a limited demo, but we can certainly do a lot more with your support. Thanks so much. In a perfect world, we would have all of that information be able to provide it in Auslan in the avatar. So perhaps later on. Thanks. You're right, Andrew. We want deaf people to be on an equal footing. It's a long journey and we're going to get there. So that's my promise to you. Thanks. Any other questions? No, not seeing any questions online. Just a few comments there saying, thanks, Cara, thanks, Terps. Any other questions? All right, we've got Shirley. First of all, I wanted to say, yeah, wondering a bit about the rollout of the information and how that will go, Grace. Thanks. Well, that's a great question, Shirley. In New Zealand, I'm not I'm not going to be criticizing New Zealand, but we know that it can be a little bit slow sometimes. This is new technology. We're still learning about it. So what we're hoping to do is people saying, well, what's really happening at the moment is people saying, well, let us know when it's working and we can join in. We're sort of at that stage at the moment where we're really keen for organizations to say, yep, let's do it. Let's give it a go. Let's try it out. So to respond to your question, the government is keen, they're exciting, but they're sort of waiting for someone else to do it first. So it's actually a pretty good opportunity here in Australia to be first out the gate. As mentioned, Cara is a New Zealand company, but we work across the globe, but we're getting a lot of attention from the United States as well. They're quite interested in the technology. So we have had some conversations with them over there in America, but really the wonderful thing is the motion capture. We can actually use any sign language. It doesn't have to be a New Zealand sign language. It doesn't have to just be Auslan. We can get an American sign language person signing it. We can have an Iranian sign language person on there. They just have to put the suit on and do the motion capture. The other thing that I actually should have added before, Cara is very big on co-design principles with the deaf community. Each time we start any project, there's a deaf person involved from the start. Picking the script, translating it, the motion capture is performed by a deaf person. There's a deaf person sitting next to the animator to provide feedback, ensuring the signs are coherent. So deaf people are involved with the quality assurance throughout the whole project. They're making sure that it can be approved and really sent off there. So deaf people are involved from A to Z. Any more questions? At Cara, we're keen to have as many conversations with the Australian deaf community as possible. We want to know about your experiences. We want to hear your opinions. And you do have the opportunity to reach out through this email here. And we'd love to set up a conversation. We've got a few questions, maybe 5 to 6 questions that are going into a bit more detail. So that really helps us to understand the design for our future projects when we're creating more avatars. So if you'd like to get in touch, you might not want to jump onto the live stream or have a conversation here today, but if you want to send me an email, then we'd love to have a chat at any time. And I want to say a big thank you to, well, perhaps you're not familiar with this organization, but Humanitec is a Red Cross organization that has really made the opportunity for us to be here possible, for us to join you here in Australia and present to you about our technology. So they have funded us to make the journey. So I wanted to say a big thank you to Humanitech and the Red Cross. So what I might do is hand it over to Eden to wrap us up. That's all from me. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Grace and Cara, for making this possible. So I'll summarize quickly with my thoughts. From what I've seen over the last 3-4 years, you know, throughout my work as well in the last year, I really believe that this could be life-changing for the deaf community, for the better. And like Grace said, it's not about taking over interpreters. It's just about filling that gap in the moment, in the emergency, in that minute. You know, to be able to generate a message and get it out to the people, whatever that might be. And then we proceed with employing the interpreters and passing on further details and whatever the presentations happen next. But it's that minor little window in the moment. What are we supposed to do? You know, we wait for interpreters, we may be alive or dead. It's emergencies are not a waiting situation. We can't sit around and wait for access. So this is critical. And I really hope that you guys can see the potential and the amazing creativity that's gone into this and the applications for the deaf community in the future. So please check out the QR code and please get involved and fill out the survey and get on board with this. I want to say thank you all for those people here in the room, for Deaf Connect for organising the PowerPoint and getting all this set up and everything happening, the live stream, all the things that all the people that have come together to make this happen. I wish you all a very good night, and I'll see some of you or all of you in Brisbane in a couple of days' time. Love you all, and thanks again. All right.